So let's talk about consensus versus non-consensus. And on the topic of central banks and reserve assets, what is the one thing that you think the market doesn't appreciate or where you think you are far from consensus?
That's a good question. Well, one topic that I like to think about is when a country will change their legal tender laws to adopt the Bitcoin standard, at least make it legal for paying bills, for paying taxes. And relatedly, when a central bank will purchase Bitcoin as part of the portfolio of reserves, right? So
in lieu of gold, in lieu of dollars, in lieu of...
Yeah, exactly. So legal tender laws allow Bitcoin and purchasing Bitcoin as a reserve asset. And I would guess that if we surveyed the audience today and we said, what's the probability that one or two of those things happen, legal tender or the reserve, in the next 10 years, I'm guessing, I don't know, about 50%, 50-50, whether in the next 10 years, one or two of those things happen. If you ask me what's the 50-50 point, at which point is it a 50% chance that one of those two things happen, I'd say 12 months. In the next 12 months, 50-50.
12 months.
Correct. 12 months. Now, it's 50-50, it's not 90-10, but it's not 2% either. So I acknowledge this is way off consensus.
Yeah, that's definitely not consensus.
No, and I can see it happening one of two ways, either offensively or defensively. So offensively, in the same way that Ed Carpenter today announced the IndyCar, it said, screw sponsors, we're going to have the Bitcoin community raise the money for the car. Very visionary, very forward-thinking, very pro-human freedom, very pro-human dignity. You could imagine a forward-thinking prime minister or president of a country who thinks the same way and says, I've done enough reading, I've done enough research, I get it, I get the importance of sound money for my people, particularly if it's a poor country, going back to my framing of poorer people have a higher percentage of their portfolio in cash versus wealthier people. So therefore, Bitcoin's more important for them. Countries that have a higher percentage of poor people, you can imagine a visionary, positive thinking, forward-thinking leader saying, this is just better for my people.
Yeah.
And a central bank saying, okay, we'll adopt some of that in our reserves. That would be offense. Defensively would be out of desperation. So currency collapses, Zimbabwe kind of in 08, 09, we've had lots and lots of true hyperinflations where the currency goes away in sort of an act of desperation. And by the way, if we watch closely Turkey and Venezuela and Iran and Pakistan, Zimbabwe, it might come up from the bottom, the use of Bitcoin. It's a misnomer that governments decide what money their people hold. It's a misnomer. Going back to the Darwinian propulsion comment I made, that most important decision of what you store your life force in, it goes beyond what a government official can tell you, which is why in these places where there's risk off, they're using Bitcoin. They don't care. It's illegal. They don't care. They need to live. Enough people had gold centuries ago that the general, the emperor, they said, guess we got to use gold. So you could imagine it coming from a bottoms up in a defensive way. So I'm 50-50. Legal tender laws in the next 12 months, or Bitcoin as a treasury, as a reserve asset in the central bank.
Well, next year at the Macro Minds conference, we can see if that came true.
We'll flip the coin.
So I want to leave some time for questions, but there are a couple other things that I wanted to talk about